NASA has finally dropped the biggest hint yet about a potential date for Starship's second test flight in a hectic week, where officials from the US FWS were seen visiting Starbase. Could we finally be on the precipice of witnessing history? Let's find out. It has been precisely 6 months, marking half a year since the launch of Ship 24 and Booster 7. This event coincided with the initiation of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's review of Starship's environmental impact statement, focusing on the Starbase launch site and its vicinity in Boca Chica. The delay in this review process seems excessively long, especially considering the actual damage suffered by SpaceX's Starbase and the adjacent wetlands. Nevertheless, it's a positive development that the review is finally underway, albeit belatedly. This delay, though frustrating, might indicate that the next Starship launch is on the horizon. The lingering question remains, when will the FWS conclude its survey? This week, SpaceX initiated the cleanup of concrete debris resulting from the inaugural Starship launch. Personnel from the Fish and Wildlife Service and Texas parks were observed on site, presumably overseeing the cleanup efforts. For those questioning why SpaceX didn't undertake this cleanup sooner, it's worth noting that they required official permission to proceed. The investigation mandated by this approval will encompass an evaluation of the impact on endangered species, as stated by the FWS. The cleanup process commences with the removal of debris and hazardous materials. SpaceX, in adherence to the recommendations of the US FWS, is taking steps to restore the affected area. This restoration may involve activities such as replanting native vegetation and rehabilitating the impacted ecosystems. SpaceX is actively collaborating with the US Fish and Wildlife Service, US FWS, to ensure strict adherence to all regulatory requirements and environmental standards. This close partnership guarantees that the cleanup process aligns with both legal mandates and environmental guidelines. Once the cleanup is concluded, regular monitoring and assessments persist to guarantee the full recovery of the affected area. This ongoing effort requires continuous cooperation between SpaceX and the FWS to track the ecosystem's recovery and overall health. Furthermore, this comprehensive process involves the analysis of air and water quality, potential soil contamination, and the impact on local wildlife. Looking ahead to the hearing before the US Senate Subcommittee on Space and Science, the US Fish and Wildlife Service indicated that their regulatory approval process for the second Starship test flight might extend until the spring of 2024. In a statement released on Tuesday, an FWS spokesperson revealed that their agency had received the final biological assessment from the FAA on October 5th, and they have a maximum of 30 days to review it thoroughly. In August, the FAA sent a letter to the FWS requesting the reinitiation of the Endangered Species Act consultation under Section 7. This reinitiation is mandated when there are significant changes in a project's impacts, such as surpassing previously issued take limits, the introduction of new information on listed species, or the listing of a new species. The FWS spokesperson explained that when major alterations in effects analysis or changes in the FWS's biological opinion occur, a new consultation is conducted. Regarding SpaceX's reinitiation with the FAA, one of the considerations involves the operation of a new water deluge system. This system was among the 63 corrective actions identified during SpaceX's investigation following the unsuccessful launch of the first integrated flight test on April 20th, 2023. The system has been utilized in a few instances, including during static fire tests of Booster 9, which is slated to be the next to fly for SpaceX alongside Ship 25. On Tuesday, SpaceX unstacked the rocket after stacking it just a day earlier. In a social media post, SpaceX announced, "Starship fully stacked while the team prepares for a launch rehearsal. We continue to work with the FAA on a launch license. The process for obtaining the license, however, might still take a considerable amount of time." After the 30-day review period of the final biological assessment by the FAA, the FWS has 135 days to issue an amended biological opinion. This period includes the formal consultation phase, which can last up to 90 days, and the crafting of the biological opinion, which has a maximum duration of 45 days. A spokesperson from the FAA noted that any necessary environmental mitigations for the water deluge system would be determined upon completion of the environmental review. This adjusted timeline coincides with Bill Gerstenmaier, SpaceX's Vice President of Build and Flight Reliability, preparing to testify before the Senate Subcommittee on Space and Science. The upcoming panel, featuring testimonies from Gerstenmaier, representatives from Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, National Aerospace Solutions, and CS Consulting, will cover a wide range of topics, from suborbital flights to lunar surface habitats. Of particular significance for SpaceX and the Starship program is the selection of the rocket as the Human Landing System, HLS, for NASA's Artemis 3 and Artemis 4 missions, making the discussion crucial for the future of SpaceX's space exploration endeavors. NASA has outlined specific requirements before authorizing its astronauts to fly aboard Starship, including ship-to-ship refueling demonstrations and an uncrewed lunar landing. However, a senior SpaceX official revealed in a recent interview that a backlog of FAA work has forced them to make difficult decisions about prioritizing their licensing process for launch vehicles. Securing the license for Starship has become a critical aspect of the Artemis program's progress. The SpaceX official emphasized the urgency, stating, "At this point, licensing for Starship is a critical path item for the Artemis program and our execution. Looking ahead into the next year, we really need to operate that program at a higher cadence of flights, ideally with 6 to 8 month turns. Any delays, even seemingly small ones, accumulate over time, jeopardizing our lead. Continuous delays in each test flight add up, and we risk falling behind, possibly allowing China to land on the moon before we do," warned Gerstenmaier, underscoring the significance of timely and efficient execution. When questioned by Senator Ted Cruz, a Texas Republican, about the timeline for the Human Landing System, HLS, version of Starship, Gerstenmaier expressed difficulty in providing a definitive answer. He stressed that the responsibility should lie with SpaceX as a private company, urging for the freedom to develop at the fastest pace possible. "Let us be the ones driving the development, not being driven by regulatory oversight," he emphasized. Gerstenmaier highlighted the challenges SpaceX faces in resource allocation due to uncertainty about when the launch license will be granted. Despite putting in extra shifts and preparing the vehicle, the inability to fly has created complications. He noted that SpaceX might conduct additional ground tests, such as a wet dress rehearsal, while awaiting the license. However, the ongoing regulatory uncertainty hampers their ability to establish a more productive and efficient schedule. Given the sluggish pace of regulatory approval, there is a looming risk of significant delays in getting Starship ready. This potential delay, extending to a year or more, has raised concerns among NASA officials, prompting them to closely monitor SpaceX's progress in recent months. In early August, Jim Free, the Associate Administrator of the Exploration Systems Development Mission Directorate at NASA, stated that there was still time for SpaceX to meet NASA's guidelines for Artemis 3. However, if they fail to do so, NASA is prepared to conduct a non-landing mission for Artemis 3 and delay the lunar touchdown until at least Artemis 4. Despite Elon Musk's announcement in early May that Starship would be ready for a new flight within 6 to 8 weeks, the summer has passed without a launch. SpaceX did conduct significant engine tests for Starship in preparation for the next flight. However, the US Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, cautioned in late September that the required regulatory processes for addressing issues from the first flight are not yet complete. Although SpaceX claims to have implemented all 57 actions required for the next flight and completed its investigation, the FAA has not yet granted a license for the second launch. Additionally, SpaceX needs environmental approval from the US Fish and Wildlife Service. Once these crucial items are resolved, SpaceX is poised to launch swiftly. Musk has affirmed that Starship is technically ready to go, emphasizing the regulatory and environmental approvals as the remaining hurdles before the next flight can proceed. A recent development from NASA seems to hint at the potential date for Starship's next flight. Following a rigorous rehearsal earlier this week where SpaceX meticulously tested nearly all pre-flight systems for the Starship rocket, significant progress appears to be underway for the much-anticipated launch. The pace surrounding the Starship launch has notably quickened, especially after a Coast Guard advisory to mariners, cautioning them about a possible rocket launch in Boca Chica, Texas, scheduled for the first week of November. While the advisory alone doesn't guarantee a specific test timeline, SpaceX's subsequent test on Tuesday, coupled with a placeholder from NASA and an updated Coast Guard notice, strongly suggest that SpaceX is gearing up for the test soon. This indication coincided with a visit by the Forest and Wildlife Service to the Starship Launchpad, further underlining the momentum building towards the imminent launch. What made the upcoming Starship launch even more apparent was NASA's recent booking of an 8-day placeholder for the WB-57 imaging aircraft. This detail echoed a pattern seen before the first Starship test flight in April. Key indicators, such as NASA placeholders for their WB-57 airplane, are signals that a launch might be imminent. The WB-57 aircraft, a specialized NASA vehicle, conducts high-altitude reconnaissance flights equipped with features like infrared imaging. NASA regularly uses this aircraft to monitor crew returns on SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft. Earlier this year, after a FOIA request, NASA released high-definition footage of the Starship April test flight captured by this plane. Additionally, the Coast Guard's updated notice to mariners provided a crucial time frame for launch activities from Boca Chica, Texas. Similar to the NASA placeholder, the recent notice from the Coast Guard doesn't explicitly state a SpaceX rocket launch. However, Considering SpaceX is the sole company launching rockets from the site, there's little doubt that tentative timelines for the second Starship test flight are being established behind the scenes. The updated Coast Guard notice emphasizes warnings to mariners about potential hazards related to rocket launching activities. These hazards include risks from free-falling debris and descending vehicles or vehicle components under various means of control. The notice states that placeholders will be in effect every day from November 1st onward until conditions allow for a launch. These hazards are expected to be present starting from November 6th, as per the Coast Guard's information. Additionally, SpaceX recently completed Starship tanking and testing on the Launchpad, including the much-anticipated water deluge system trial. Following these tests, representatives from the FWS visited the site early in the morning. The water deluge test appeared to be well planned, with certain system tanks having been filled earlier. This suggests a collaborative effort between SpaceX and the FWS to assess the impact on the surrounding area after conducting multiple water deluge tests. From publicly available information, it's clear that the water deluge system has posed the most substantial challenge for the upcoming second Starship orbital test flight. Despite this hurdle, SpaceX has displayed swift progress in reconstructing the launch pad and integrating the water system. Remarkably, these advancements have been achieved within a few months of the April test attempt. While awaiting clearance from the FAA, SpaceX has not remained idle. The company is actively involved in ground testing of another Starship second-stage prototype as part of its collaborative efforts with NASA for the Lunar Landing System development. While the necessary formalities are being completed, SpaceX has continued rigorous testing of the Starship in preparation for the upcoming launch. Recently, Ship 25 was detached from Booster 9 after completing a complex fueling test and launch rehearsal earlier in the week. This process involved the activation of a towering structure nicknamed Mechazilla, equipped with giant mechanical arms. These arms carefully dismantled the largest rocket ever built, lifting the 50-meter-tall second stage and spacecraft off the Super Heavy Booster 9. This destacking, hopefully the final one before the launch, allows SpaceX to address the remaining gaps in the Starship's heat shield. Additionally, thorough inspections will be conducted to ensure the spacecraft is fully prepared for flight. Prior to the launch date, the flight termination system must be certified. Once these steps are completed, Starship may take flight again from South Texas as soon as November 6th. However, Starship enthusiasts should manage their expectations for an early November launch. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service revealed in an email statement on Thursday that they have recently begun the consultation under the Endangered Species Act with the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, on October 19th. The FWS now has up to 135 days to create an updated biological opinion regarding the impact of Starship and its launches on the local environment. However, the agency stated in the email that they do not anticipate taking the full allotted time. The nature of such testing is unpredictable and subject to change. Additionally, SpaceX is still awaiting a Federal Aviation Administration license to launch the spacecraft. Before the FAA approves the launch license, SpaceX must address all safety, environmental, and other regulatory requirements, as emphasized by FAA spokesperson Steve Cowell in an email. The Starship program is undergoing an additional environmental review process, according to Cowell. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is currently reviewing and consulting with the FAA about a draft update of the biological assessment under the Endangered Species Act. Despite these regulatory hurdles, SpaceX has continued its testing efforts for the 400-ton tall spacecraft and its launch pad. On Tuesday, SpaceX conducted a flight-like rehearsal, fueling the Starship and Super Heavy booster with over 10 million pounds of propellant. During this test, SpaceX also examined its recently installed Deluge system, designed to spray hundreds of thousands of gallons of water across the launch pad's bottom. This system serves to dampen the noise, heat, and force generated by the Super Heavy booster's 33 Raptor engines. However, the Fish and Wildlife Service is currently evaluating the environmental impacts of the Deluge system. This system disperses tons of water, which have been exposed to heat, chemicals, and contaminants into sensitive wetland habitats. These habitats are home to endangered species including piping plovers, red knots, and sea turtles. Environmental advocates have raised concerns about SpaceX's Deluge system, pointing out that the company lacks proper permitting for it. Under the Clean Water Act, it is illegal to discharge pollutants into waters without a permit. According to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, which enforces the Clean Water Act in Texas, SpaceX currently holds only a stormwater permit for the launch site. This raises questions about the legality of the Deluge system's operations. SpaceX's journey toward the second launch of the fully stacked Starship has been challenging. The previous Starship flight on April 20th resulted in significant damage, obliterating the concrete under the launch pad and creating a rock tornado that scattered debris for thousands of yards. The explosion also generated a dust plume that reached Port Isabel, located 6.5 miles away. After reaching an altitude of 24 miles, the rocket lost control, tumbling and eventually exploding over the Gulf of Mexico. In response to the environmental impact, the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department have been working to clean up debris on state-owned lands, minimizing the impact on the habitat as much as possible. SpaceX finds itself in a waiting game, with the completion of the review by the Fish and Wildlife Service, FWS, marking one milestone and the subsequent approval from the FAA for the second test flight being another hurdle to cross. This process could take anywhere from a few weeks to several more months. However, the situation is complicated further by an ongoing lawsuit, which is still navigating administrative processes, potentially causing additional delays. However, SpaceX is continuing to maximize its time by developing its revolutionary spacecraft even further. The Starbase facility is a hive of activity, where multiple new Starship vehicles and Super Heavy boosters are being produced and rigorously tested. Progress seems to have reached at least Starship 31 in the manufacturing line, with several more vehicles likely in earlier stages of production. Despite numerous obstacles, SpaceX continues to push forward, preparing for the second Starship test flight while navigating the complexities of regulatory and legal proceedings. What do you think? Could we finally witness Starship's second test flight in 2 weeks? It's incredible to think that only 6 months ago, Starbase resembled a chaotic battlefield right after the first Starship launch. At that time, there was widespread concern that the damage inflicted on the launch site might push back the subsequent launch by a year or more. Some even went so far as to suggest the necessity of replacing the entire launch deck. However, surprisingly, just half a year later, we find ourselves with a fully assembled second Starship prototype that's primed for launch. How did we reach this point? Following the successful integration of Ship 25 onto Booster 9 for the 4th time on October 20th, everyone was eagerly anticipating some Starship-related activities by the 22nd. As anticipated, just 2 days later, the road leading to Starbase was sealed off, the launch site emptied out, and the orbital tank farms sprang to life. This marked the beginning of the chilling process, essential for fueling, as pumping large quantities of propellant through pipes at ambient temperature would utterly destroy them. Shortly after, the familiar frost ring began to form on the liquid oxygen and methane tanks of Booster 9. While this site is recognizable to many, have you ever wondered about its origins? A common misconception is that the frost seen on Starship consists of frozen oxygen or methane. However, that's not accurate. Starship's fueling process involves cryogenic propellants. Liquid oxygen is supercooled to around minus 210 degrees Celsius or minus 346 Fahrenheit, while methane is chilled to a slightly less extreme temperature of minus 180 degrees Celsius or minus 292 Fahrenheit. Due to Starship's limited insulation, these cryogenic propellants cause a substantial drop in the rocket's temperature. Moreover, the air surrounding Starship usually contains a certain amount of water vapor, commonly referred to as humidity. Particularly in coastal regions like Starbase, humidity levels tend to be quite high, a trait shared by numerous spaceports. When Starship's super-cold surface comes into contact with the humid atmosphere, the substantial temperature contrast causes the water vapor around the rocket to quickly freeze and crystallize. This phenomenon, called deposition, leads the vapor to solidify directly, bypassing the liquid stage. That's why the frost observed on rockets is essentially frozen water. For a simple demonstration at home, pour a cold soda into a warm glass. Within minutes, frost forms on the glass, similar to the icy exterior of Starship. During liftoff, this frosty layer partially breaks off, generally not posing a concern, especially for Starship. This effect can also be observed in footage from Saturn V launches. The significance of this frost formation lies in its ability to indicate the amount of propellant inside Starship's tanks. In a specific instance, we observed only a partial fill of Booster 9. It was then quickly emptied, only to be refueled a few minutes later. This could be SpaceX's method of testing the orbital tank farm before the actual launch. After this trial, the water deflector was put into action, completely submerging the launch site. This was the inaugural use of the third massive water tank, and it was evident that this test had a heightened intensity. The water released beneath the orbital launch mount serves a crucial purpose. It prevents the flame from the 33 Raptor engines from melting the entire pad, a vital safety measure. Despite having successfully endured static fires, the true assessment of this unique deluge system will occur during the actual launch. Intriguingly, these deluge tests are ongoing, even as the Fish and Wildlife Services continue to evaluate the system's environmental impact. There are two potential explanations for this situation. One possibility is that SpaceX is pushing forward, taking the risk of potential penalties, as the delays likely incur higher costs than the fines themselves. Alternatively, the Fish and Wildlife Services might have already completed their evaluation, found no environmental hazards, and quietly permitted SpaceX to continue testing without public announcement. The day concluded with a test of the engine purge system, a crucial feature upgraded to prevent onboard fires during the upcoming launch. Jumping ahead to another 2 days, on October 24th, following a thorough cleanup of the Launchpad, the road leading to the site was once again sealed off. By 1 p.m., venting could be seen emanating from the launch tower, indicating that internal pipes were being chilled in preparation for propellant loading. Soon after, both liquid oxygen and methane started to flow into Starship's tanks, signaling the commencement of a wet dress rehearsal, WDR. In a WDR, the rocket is loaded with real propellant, closely simulating the protocols followed on the actual launch day, except for the absence of engine ignition. The fueling process took about 90 minutes to complete, hinting that recent upgrades to the tank farm might not have been entirely integrated into the main system yet. After the test concluded, Starship was safely emptied of propellant, followed by another round of testing for the water deflector. SpaceX promptly shared an update on Twitter, confirming the successful test and announcing that the rocket is primed for launch, pending regulatory approval. Looking ahead, what remains to be done? Surprisingly, very little. A static fire has already been completed, and redoing it would only invite more potential issues. The surrounding infrastructure has undergone thorough testing as well. The sole task remaining? Simply fueling Starship one last time and launching it. SpaceX has also made some major progress at the build site. In the high bay, we are currently witnessing the simultaneous assembly of 3 ships, one of them being Ship 32, which is rapidly taking form. On October 24th, its common dome section was seamlessly integrated with the main body of the prototype. What remains for this prototype is the mid-liquid oxygen section and the aft section, commonly referred to as the engine section. Once these crucial components are added, Ship 32 is expected to be briefly rolled out before being brought back inside for the installation of its flaps. Adjacent to Ship 32, both Ships 31 and 30 are receiving their final touches in preparation for their testing at Massey's. Positioned in front of the bays is the ring yard, functioning as a temporary holding area for various Starship components. These activities underscore the bustling progress and constant evolution at the build site. From a bird's eye view, we can see that the yard recently welcomed the hot staging test article that was previously stationed at Massey's. Its future remains uncertain. It might be scrapped, or perhaps the ring could be repurposed for a future prototype. Moving to the rocket garden, there's a newcomer. Following modifications at the payload processing facility, the Starship crew mock-up has found a new home at Starbase. Recently, its aero covers were removed, sparking speculation that Starbase engineers might be preparing this prototype for a potential showcase to NASA. There is hopeful anticipation that SpaceX will soon provide a glimpse of this prototype's interior. Given Starship's upcoming role in transporting Artemis 3 astronauts to the moon in just 2 years, the world is eagerly awaiting insights into its internal layout. Moving to the Star Factory, remarkable progress is evident in the new phases of the building's construction. The section adjacent to the old Star Factory is essentially complete, with significant headway also being made in its neighboring area. Additionally, wall panels are rapidly being installed in sections close to Highway 4, showcasing the swift pace of advancements in this crucial facility. In the background, an array of air conditioning units is lined up, ready for installation on the factory's roof. The abundance of beams and various parts indicates that the expansion of the Star Factory is far from reaching its conclusion. However, it appears that the construction of new foundations for the building's next phase is the only aspect lagging behind. Perhaps this deliberate pace is a strategic decision, considering there is still ample work to be done in the current factory area. At the Sanchez site, the focus is on the rings, receiving meticulous attention. The prominent white engine installation stand now features its most crucial component: 10 motorized arms meticulously designed to secure the super heavy booster. Intriguingly, right beside it, there are not only the Raptor lift platform, but also components for another potential stand. Considering that SpaceX already has one stand in the Mega Bay, it seems they might be planning to have 2 such stands for each bay. Not far from the Sanchez entrance, a pair of black rings catches the eye, adding to the intriguing developments at the site. The prevailing theory suggests that these black rings could potentially serve as platforms for booster spin prime or static fire tests. The exact location for their intended use remains a mystery. However, recent developments indicate that we might get some answers soon. 17 out of the 20 hold-down clamps have been installed in the first stand, a clear indication that its completion is drawing near. Additionally, the ring to the left is likely to receive its arms soon, given the presence of 20 arms positioned nearby. As SpaceX continues to make progress, securing a launch license from the FAA remains the pivotal step. Ironically, Starship has been prepared for launch for several weeks. SpaceX's senior vice president stated, "We've been ready to fly for a few weeks now," indicating that the rocket is fully prepared, and the team is poised for action. After enduring frustrating delays, it appears that the clouds of uncertainty are finally clearing. The launch date for this highly anticipated rocket now seems clearer than ever before. In recent months, our attention has shifted significantly towards the developments surrounding the FAA launch license, diverting focus from the actual Starship rocket. This frustration is not unique to us. Even SpaceX has grown weary of the constant holdups. Their concerns were voiced during a recent Senate hearing, a pivotal discussion where major players in the American space industry, including Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic, echoed similar sentiments. In this crucial dialogue, all participating companies unanimously stressed the importance of safety. However, they also highlighted how the FAA's current licensing processes have become obstacles in the face of rapidly advancing space technology. Among all the companies, SpaceX's concerns were particularly prominent. This was not merely because they voiced their issues more vocally, but due to the frequency of their launches, a rate that surpasses that of any other company. Regulatory obstacles impact SpaceX significantly more than others. Just consider the numbers. In 2023 alone, SpaceX successfully launched 74 rockets. This impressive count includes 69 Falcon 9S, 4 Falcon Heavies, and the much-discussed Starship. With a goal to launch 100 rockets by the end of the year, it's no exaggeration to say that we're witnessing a SpaceX rocket soaring into the skies nearly every other day. During the recent Senate hearing, SpaceX strongly suggested that the FAA should increase its team size. They even recommended doubling their current staff to expedite processes. In an unexpected move, SpaceX offered assistance in the recruitment process, showcasing their intense determination to accelerate the progress of Starship's development. Interestingly, SpaceX's proactive approach appears to be yielding results. Several signs now point to an imminent launch in the near future. Firstly, a Coast Guard advisory was issued, warning mariners of a potential rocket launch in Boca Chica, Texas, scheduled for early November. Although this doesn't officially confirm SpaceX's launch date, it indicates heightened activity in the area, hinting at preparations for a significant event. Another compelling clue is NASA's recent scheduling of the WB-57 imaging aircraft. This specialized aircraft is designed for high-altitude reconnaissance and is equipped with infrared imaging capabilities. It played a crucial role in monitoring SpaceX's first Starship test in April. Beyond Starship tests, the WB-57 has been utilized to track SpaceX's Crew Dragon during manned missions, highlighting its significance in SpaceX's operations. This scheduling suggests that SpaceX and NASA are gearing up for a significant event, adding to the anticipation of an impending launch. Furthermore, one of the crucial steps SpaceX took in preparing for the highly anticipated launch was conducting a wet dress rehearsal at their Starbase facility in South Texas. This involved loading the rocket with fuel as if it were on the verge of launch without actually taking off. It's a critical process to ensure that all systems are functioning as they should. SpaceX took to Twitter to share an update on this significant development, stating, "Starship and Super Heavy were loaded with more than 10 million pounds of propellant today in a flight-like rehearsal ahead of launch." Their excitement for the upcoming test flight was evident in another tweet later that day, where they declared, "Vehicle is ready for the second test flight of a fully integrated Starship, pending regulatory approval." While awaiting clearance from the FAA, SpaceX is diligently testing its Starship Prototype 26, a model specifically crafted for NASA's lunar landing missions. This prototype stands as a testament to Elon Musk's profound vision of transforming humanity into a truly interplanetary species. Musk envisions a future where vast numbers of humans can journey not just to Mars, but even farther destinations in our solar system. However, the path to this ambitious goal has not been without challenges. The initial test flight of the Starship resulted in an explosion due to an issue with the upper stage separation. Despite this setback, Musk remains remarkably optimistic about Starship's chances of reaching orbit in its upcoming attempts. This optimism is further underscored by the fact that SpaceX has already secured numerous major missions involving the Starship rocket, indicating continued confidence in the project's potential. One of the highlighted missions for SpaceX is Dear Moon, set to be the first all-civilian trip around the moon. This ambitious venture is backed by Japanese billionaire and entrepreneur Yusaku Maezawa. In March 2021, he announced plans to take members of the public with him on this historic trip. Maezawa has invited people to apply for a chance to join him, and 8 selected artists on the Starship for this extraordinary lunar journey. Beyond Dear Moon, there's the Artemis 3 mission, a significant NASA endeavor aiming to land astronauts on the moon. If successful, this mission will mark the first crewed lunar landing since the Apollo missions, showcasing the pivotal role that Starship might play in advancing space exploration in the coming years. In addition to the Dear Moon and Artemis 3 missions, there's significant excitement surrounding the Starlink 2. Zero missions, SpaceX's advanced internet satellite system. This project underscores the versatility and capability of the Starship vehicle. Last June, Elon Musk shared a video from a presentation made to SpaceX employees. This video included a captivating clip showcasing Starship releasing the upcoming Starlink 2, Zero satellites. With the advent of Starship, SpaceX plans to launch these larger Starlink 2, Zero satellites before the main Starlink 2. Zero launches. SpaceX has already sent a few batches of the smaller Starlink 5 2 minis into orbit. These preliminary launches serve as test runs, ensuring the technology for the comprehensive 2, Zero satellite system is up to par. Several years ago, SpaceX made the pivotal decision to select South Texas, specifically the Boca Chica region, as the cornerstone for its monumental Starship project. Boca Chica's geographical advantages, situated close to the equator, offer optimal launch conditions by harnessing Earth's rotational speed. Moreover, its proximity to the Gulf of Mexico and the vast Atlantic Ocean to the east provides a safe buffer, effectively mitigating potential risks to populated areas. Beyond the physical benefits, Texas's favorable legal and regulatory environment has been a significant boon for SpaceX. The state's pro-business policies, coupled with tax incentives tailored for aerospace companies, have substantially lowered operational expenses for the company. Additionally, Texas boasts a rich pool of talent due to its numerous technology and engineering institutions, providing crucial support for SpaceX's ambitious goals. The Starship project, in particular, has not only introduced advanced technology to the state, but has also brought economic rejuvenation, especially to regions like Brownsville. This area, which once held the dubious distinction of being one of the poorest cities in the US, is now experiencing positive transformation and growth due to SpaceX's presence and its innovative ventures. And that's not all. Once the Starship is finally ready, the economic benefits it will bring will not only be limited to Texas and SpaceX, but the entire USA. So what do you think? After all of this recent progress, are the FAA and FWS finally ready to approve Starship's second launch in November? SpaceX has astounded the rocket industry with its rapid and continuous progress at Starbase. They have been building, testing, fixing, upgrading, and expanding at an unprecedented pace. While the world eagerly anticipates the launch of Starship 25 Booster 9 and awaits the FAA's response, something remarkable is happening right under everyone's noses within NASA's own realm. SpaceX is quietly working on a project so groundbreaking that it overshadows all competitors, even leaving NASA astonished. Starbase, situated in South Texas, stands as the world's premier spaceport. It is home to SpaceX's cutting-edge Starship rocket factory and launchpads, earning it the title of the Gateway to Mars among the space community. This location is poised to become the launch site for numerous Starship flights every month, a feat unmatched in scale by any other rocket company, including NASA, the largest government-run space agency in the US. Starbase's launch infrastructure in Texas is incredibly complex, surpassing anything seen before. In April, Starbase witnessed the launch of the world's largest and most powerful rocket, marking a significant milestone in space exploration. Presently, the site is gearing up for its second Starship launch scheduled for October. The facility is a hub of activity, with continuous prototype production and rigorous testing in preparation for this upcoming launch. Elon Musk's ambitions extend far beyond Starbase, as he envisions Starship becoming a common mode of transportation globally. His plan involves establishing a launch network on a much larger scale than one might imagine. SpaceX's first target for this ambitious endeavor was the launch facility in Florida. In late 2021, SpaceX embarked on the construction of the second version of Starship's Florida pad, known as Orbital Launch Site 2. This site is situated at Kennedy Space Center's LC-39A pad, leased by SpaceX from NASA. However, due to NASA's concerns about potential Starship failures, which could cause delays in SpaceX's Crew Dragon or Falcon Heavy contracts with the agency, progress on Starship's Florida pad was initially slow. Despite these challenges, SpaceX has made remarkable strides in just 13 months. During this time, SpaceX laid foundations, modified one of Pad 39A's large spherical tanks to store cryogenic methane, installed extensive plumbing, and constructed a second skyscraper-sized Starship launch tower. Additionally, they set up the legs of the pad's orbital launch mount, OLM, and implemented a water deluge system at the base of the OLM. Off-site, most of the donut-like MM's mount was assembled. SpaceX also built a new supersized storage tank and delivered numerous smaller storage tanks. SpaceX has achieved a significant milestone by fabricating a massive pair of steel arms, which they affectionately refer to as chopsticks. These arms were transported to Pad 39A in Florida, attached to a wheeled vehicle, and then installed on the Starship launch tower. This tower, along with the arms, is what CEO Elon Musk has dubbed Mechazilla. Mechazilla encompasses the combined launch tower and arms designed by SpaceX to catch, lift, stack, and fuel both stages of the Starship. Once completed, the tower's arms in Florida will have the capability to precisely catch, handle, stack, and unstack the Starship and Super Heavy spacecraft, even in relatively windy conditions. It's worth noting that building the Starship launch tower is a colossal engineering feat, far from being an easy task. Many engineers consider this ground structure to be even more challenging than the production of the Starship spacecraft itself. SpaceX has not only constructed a launch tower in Texas, but has also built an additional one in Florida during the initial rocket testing phase. In Florida, SpaceX has set numerous records, making it impossible for any rocket company or space organization, including NASA, to ignore their achievements. The Falcon 9 rocket has proven to be a true workhorse in Florida, breaking records and demonstrating exceptional performance. To understand the depth of Falcon 9's accomplishments, consider its latest record. As of now, Falcon 9 has completed 66 launches. However, the remarkable feat occurred after its 60-second launch when it surpassed the previous record of 61 Falcon flights in a single year, achieved at the end of 2022. This means Falcon 9 launched approximately every 9 days, a significant improvement from its 2022 average of one launch every 9 days. To illustrate this rapid pace, SpaceX achieved its 10th launch of 2023 by February 12th, its 20th by late March, 30th in the second week of May, 40th in mid-June, and 50th and 60th at the tail ends of July and August. Comparatively, in 2022, it took until the second week of March to reach 10 flights, mid-July to achieve 20, early September to get to 30, and the beginning of November to surpass 50 launches. Considering this trajectory, it's entirely conceivable that SpaceX could exceed 90 missions before the end of 2023. In the course of this year, nearly 60% of SpaceX's missions have revolved around deploying Starlink internet satellites into orbit. Since the beginning of the year, SpaceX has undertaken 3 crewed missions to the ISS and launched 3 Falcon Heavy rockets. It's evident that the key driving force behind SpaceX's increasing launch frequency lies in the company's ability to recycle rocket boosters and first-stage components. A pivotal development occurred in July when SpaceX launched its Falcon 9 booster for the 16th time. Engineers extended the first stage's lifespan from 15 flights to 20 missions, a significant achievement. According to SpaceX, this extended usability is currently reserved for Starlink launches, underscoring the company's commitment to maximizing the potential of its equipment. Additionally, SpaceX's launch teams have been working tirelessly to optimize their launch sites for faster turnaround times. At SpaceX's busiest launch site in Florida, the turnaround time has been reduced to less than 4 days between missions this year. This reduction in time is crucial, especially given that SpaceX's other launch facility in Florida is often constrained by Falcon Heavy missions and crewed launches, both of which typically require more preparation time for each flight. In California, SpaceX's West Coast launch site has been the backdrop for 18 Falcon 9 missions. Unlike its Florida counterpart, the launch site in California boasts an older design, which requires more time to set up for each mission. One notable difference is the robust back structure that resembles a vertical gantry structure positioned alongside the rocket during the final countdown. Unlike the retractable backs in Florida, these sturdy structures in California remain in place during liftoff, enduring the fiery plume of exhaust as the Falcon 9 ascends. Consequently, this setup leads to more refurbishment requirements between launches. Despite these challenges, SpaceX's ground team in California has demonstrated remarkable efficiency, managing Falcon 9 missions with turnaround times as short as 10 days. It's worth noting that out of 44 other SpaceX launches this year, all have taken off from Florida. The spaceport in Florida has been exceptionally busy, supporting 46 orbital launches involving SpaceX, ULA, and Relativity Space. This already exceeds the 57 launches hosted there last year. Officials from the US Space Force Space Launch Delta, the agency responsible for overseeing launch operations at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and Kennedy Space Center, have efficiently coordinated their activities to meet the growing demand for launches, largely driven by SpaceX. In the remaining quarter of the year, SpaceX has a packed schedule of pre-scheduled launches, including their Starlink missions, aiming to reach a total of 100 launches in 2023. During this busy period, there is one more scheduled Falcon Heavy rocket launch planned for a mission with the US Space Force in November. SpaceX also intends to conduct a Falcon 9 rocket launch carrying a commercial lunar lander developed by Intuitive Machines, a Houston-based company aspiring to achieve the first privately owned spacecraft landing on the Moon. Moreover, there are 2 resupply missions to the International Space Station, ISS, in the pipeline, both utilizing Falcon 9 rockets. One mission will employ SpaceX's Dragon cargo capsule, while the other will transport a Northrop Grumman supply ship into orbit. Notably, this marks the initiation of at least 3 Northrop Grumman resupply missions utilizing SpaceX rockets following the retirement of their Antares launcher. Lastly, the Missile Defense Agency has plans to launch the Hypersonic and Ballistic Tracking Space Sensor mission into orbit later this year using a Falcon 9 rocket. This innovative sensor is equipped with improved sensitivity, specifically designed for the detection and tracking of hypersonic missiles. These missiles pose unique challenges due to their lower heat signatures compared to larger long-range ballistic missiles, making them more elusive for existing missile tracking satellites. SpaceX has expressed a desire to launch Starship from its smaller rocket launch facility in Florida, but NASA, the site owner, has imposed restrictions due to concerns about potential interference with Crew Dragon launches. Crew Dragon is vital for NASA's ISS missions, and they rely solely on it to reach the International Space Station, ISS. To address NASA's concerns, SpaceX quickly proposed an alternative solution. They constructed a new launch pad specifically for Crew Dragon. For those new to the Starship program, it's important to note that Starbase, SpaceX's facility in Texas, was not initially intended as the launch site for SpaceX Starship. Instead, it primarily serves as a facility for the production and testing of advanced Starship technologies. Elon Musk, the head of SpaceX, has always maintained the ultimate goal of launching Starship missions from Launch Complex 39A, LC-39A in Florida, possibly from a new pad that has yet to be established. In 2022, significant progress was made toward the objective of launching Starship from Florida, with the nearly completed Starship launch tower located next to the Falcon 9 mount at LC-39A. However, due to concerns stemming from a mishap during the first Starship flight, most Starship operations at Florida's facility have been temporarily halted. The reason behind this pause lies in the fact that LC-39A currently stands as the sole US site capable of launching Crew Dragon capsules. Crew Dragon is the only spacecraft available to transport astronauts to the ISS, making the Launchpad a national asset rather than just for experimental flights. If a Starship were to experience an incident during launch, there is a risk that LC-39A could become unavailable. This concern is grounded in past incidents. When a Falcon 9 rocket exploded at LC-40 in 2016, causing extensive damage and requiring a complete rebuild, SpaceX took 15 months to revive the Launchpad. In other words, if a Starship launch were to fail and destroy the Falcon and Dragon facilities at Pad 39A, it could take between 12 to 18 months to restore the site, potentially disrupting NASA's access to the International Space Station. NASA's alternative to Dragon, the Boeing Starliner, has faced significant delays and is not yet qualified for crewed missions, making it incapable of taking over supply duties for the ISS. Given this high-stakes situation, it becomes crucial to conduct rigorous testing and explore alternative launch options for crewed flights before Starship can be approved for launches from Florida. SpaceX is actively addressing this concern by working on viable alternatives. To the southwest of Space Launch Complex 40, SpaceX has its Roberts Road facility. This location houses SpaceX's Falcon 9 refurbishment facility, Hangar X, and the Cape Canaveral Star Factory. Notably, an access tower is being constructed for SpaceX's Crew and Cargo Dragon missions. The third section of this tower is now in place. Once complete, this new tower will alleviate congestion at Pad 39A, which is currently the sole pad equipped for Dragon launches. The construction site is bustling with activity, with numerous cranes and elevators surrounding various sections. The elevator shaft and stairs are visible in the smaller sections at the back, while the larger front section is expected to house the crew access elevator on launch day. Typically, the crew arrives at the launch pad and uses a specialized elevator known as the crew access arm to board the spacecraft. This retractable walkway extends from the launch tower to the spacecraft, ensuring safe boarding for the crew, whether it's a Dragon spacecraft or another type of vehicle. The construction of an additional tower specifically for Crew Dragon missions underscores SpaceX's commitment to establishing a robust and secure pathway for crewed missions. This proactive approach minimizes risks to critical ISS access points. As the crew elevator nears completion, it signals SpaceX's readiness to potentially launch Starship in the near future. Moreover, a significant sign of progress is evident as SpaceX steadily expands its operational area. A recently published environmental assessment draft outlines the expansion plans for Roberts Road. The primary proposal includes a northward expansion of the current facility, necessitating the acquisition of an additional 100 acres of land by SpaceX. In this extensive 231-page document, the focal point is SpaceX's ambitious proposal to triple the size of its current facility to nearly 150 acres. This expansion plan envisions the construction of two key buildings. The first is a smaller structure likely designated for office space, while the second is a considerably larger building, potentially serving as the second Star Factory. This proposed expansion is marked by its efficiency, aiming for swift completion within the span of 2 to 3 years. To facilitate this expansive growth, most utility services, including electrical, fiber, and water connections, could be extended from the existing Roberts Road facility. The proposal also includes a request to widen the Saturn Causeway, the road linking the iconic vehicle assembly building with pad LC-39A. Currently, this road is 8 meters wide, posing a challenge for maneuvering Starship, which is 9 meters wide. SpaceX aims to widen the road to 3 meters, allowing ample space for Starship transporters. In addition to the positive news about SpaceX expanding its presence in Florida, plans are underway for building a Starship production facility next to Hangar X in the state. Regardless of the specific details, the crucial aspect is that Florida has been chosen as the primary launch site for Starship in the future. Significant developments in this location are undoubtedly essential, whether they unfold sooner or later. Elon Musk reaffirmed this decision during a gathering at Starbase, emphasizing the future role of Starbase as SpaceX's advanced research and development location. It will serve as the place where they test new designs and versions of the rocket. According to Musk, Kennedy Space Center will likely serve as their main operational launch site. However, challenges arise, especially in SpaceX's Boca Chica location, where there are concerns about safety due to the potential for fiery crashes. Environmental issues around Starbase have also raised concerns, leading to scrutiny and legal action from government agencies and environmental organizations. Obtaining launch permits at this facility proves to be cumbersome and complex, causing delays in launches that could impact critical space missions. The significance of Hangar X goes beyond SpaceX's internal operations, as it serves as a crucial space where NASA and SpaceX occasionally open their doors to astronauts. These astronauts get a first-hand view of the very rockets that will propel them toward the ISS. With the new proposal, both NASA and SpaceX stand to benefit strategically from the expansion efforts. SpaceX plans to bolster its operations in Brevard County by constructing additional infrastructure. This expansion initiative includes the construction of more office space and industrial facilities while upgrading existing amenities. The estimated construction period is 2 to 3 years, and once completed, the location will be put into immediate use. Essentially, SpaceX envisions the consolidation of diverse operations, spanning from the Falcon programs to the innovative Starship endeavors, into a unified and centralized campus. This consolidation aims to facilitate easier oversight, streamlined operation, and increased efficiency, marking a significant step toward enhancing the collaborative efforts between SpaceX and NASA. With the Starship's second test flight facing constant delays in Texas, this new facility in Florida could prove to be the answer to SpaceX's development problems. What do you think? Should SpaceX move its Starship production facilities to another state? Please share your thoughts in the comments below.